Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, a 3 times weekly show looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. This is the flagship show. My name is Mikey Penty-Smith, and after Ipswich enjoyed a posh one on Saturday, I'm joined by Rich Wood, who is here to help me wrap up the weekend's action. How are you, Rich?
I'm good, mate. I think we've got the 2 poshest members of the team as well, right? We drag the class up, do we? No? I'm about to start a class war.
I wouldn't like to say, but yeah, I live in Surrey and you live in Warwickshire, so
I have a castle in my garden, so as you do.
Great stuff. So since your excellent midweek show, Rich, Ipswich were able to get the move for Kane Vincent-Young over the line. I have got his name right, haven't I?
Kane Vincent-Young, yeah. KVY.
Great stuff. So we'll get on to the game and the performance of our fullbacks in a minute. But how positive are you about this signing?
Yeah, I'm decent. Quick, can play on either side as well, which I think is helpful. And I think it will be a case of how quickly we can get him in the team. I think Lambert said he had a toe injury or something like that, so I'd be surprised to see him on Tuesday. But positive, we've spent some money, albeit it's probably $500,000 that's paid to Colchester every, I don't know, over the next 10 years or something stupid like that, knowing us. But needed, and just need to crack on and get 2 more, I think.
Do you think this move would have happened if Lambert hadn't have thrown his toys out of the pram a little bit a couple of weeks ago about the lack of spending? Or do you think that Evans was always open to spending $500,000 on a fullback?
Yeah, it's a good shout. I don't know, actually. It's a good thought. Maybe not. I don't know. I think maybe the fact that we haven't smashed everyone that we've played so far has perhaps helped. Maybe Tuesday night at Luton also helped in terms of the alternative options to Donatian. Emmanuel didn't cover himself in glory. So I think maybe, as Dave likes to say, a little bit of both, Mikey. A little bit of both. Bit
of both. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with the signing. You're pretty happy with the signing. But apparently, according to crew boss David Artell, we could have done better. What did you make of these comments?
Yeah, I that's random, wasn't it? I don't know if that was we need the money, so damn it, why didn't you sign one of our players? But it's weird because it's more of an insult to Kane Vincent-Young, isn't it? Rather than it being a big up of his... Who was the right back? I can't even remember the name of the guy now.
I probably should have written that down. But
yeah, never mind. This is what preparation's about, isn't it, Mike? It's fine. I heard the right back, and damn it, I can't remember his name, and it'll come to me at some point. Is actually quite highly rated. I spoke to a guy called Gabe Sutton who does quite a lot of EFL roundups and blogs and so on, and he was sort of talking to me about right back options because it'd been clear that we needed one for some time, and he mentioned the crew right back, as being an option. So maybe there's something in the fact that he's a good player, but you don't call out other people's signings. It's frankly none of your business. So all a little bit of panto. I've never encountered that before. I don't know if have you ever seen that?
No,
let me tell you how to spend your money at Ipswich. It's nothing to do with it.
Yeah, such a strange one. And a manager to do it as well. It's the sort of behaviour you'd expect from somebody like Barry Fry. But not from a manager.
Unless he wants rid, unless he wants rid or wants the money, because effectively he's advertised him to everyone else in the league now, hasn't he? So good on him if that was the intention. But if it was just to slag off our transfer market, because he said I think the quote was, whoever did Ipswich's scouting deserves their P45. Well, probably calling for someone's job. I mean, he might have a point, but maybe not about this one.
Yeah, he might have had a point. Yeah, and so I think that lacked a little bit of professionalism from the crew manager. And speaking of professionalism, you are recording this, aren't you, Rich? Because
yes.
I've just realised that I haven't pressed record.
He hasn't. So... Professionalism is, and that is what I want. Yeah. Hostess with the mostess, Mikey. That's why I'm here, don't worry. Yeah.
You're the guy that can do it all, Rich. So it makes everyone else around you a little bit lazy.
I'm the Blue Monday.
You were telling me just before You told me just before we started that you've been mowing the communal lawns outside the front of the house. So
got to give some back as well, Mikey.
Yeah, but you make people like me really lazy because I just think, Rich will do that.
Yeah, and similarly, I'll just half-arse it when Ben's around as well. So there's a ranking of half-arsing it, Mikey. Not I'm suggesting you're half-arsing it. Sure, it's going well so far, hey?
Oh, that's all I've got though. So on Friday, John Nolan got 45 minutes under his belt in a 2-1 defeat. Do you expect him to be a big player for us when he's back fit?
Yeah, it's good news though. I mean, it's taken him bloody ages to come back from the injury, and I had a quick trawl through the questions. I don't think we've got anything injuries, which is good this time because we generally speak about it most weeks. But I always kind of expected that he would be one of the more critical midfielders for us this season because he can kind of get all around the air, he kind of moves forwards and backwards. What am I trying to say, Mikey? He's mobile, is what I'm saying, and
he's dynamic.
He's good. He's good around both boxes as well. He's got a shot on him. He can spot a pass. So he's got a little bit of everything. Whereas mostly our midfielders of a kind of a single model. You've got a Judge. Or a Dazal or a Hughes who are very much about pushing forward. You've got Scoose and a Downs who's adding more to his game, but admittedly are sitting or holding midfielders who are going to break stuff up. So Nolan had a little bit extra to his game. He could do a little bit of everything. So I kind of expected him to be a key player for us. So the sooner he gets back, the better. That said, we do have an abundance of central midfielders right now, and we're playing a 4-4-2. So where he's going to fit in that team, only Paul Lambert knows.
Yeah, and Lambert hasn't really stumbled across like a perfect formula yet, and that's the one positive I'd say about this Leasing Cup that we've got coming up, because that is a good opportunity to try different things out.
Yep.
And that'll be a good way for Nolan to get minutes, and hopefully Hughes as well.
Exactly. Right.
Because Downs and Skews at the moment have been two of our best players, haven't they?
Agreed. Yeah, and good on you for being on brand there, Mikey, with the Checker Trade sponsor.
The LDV Vans
yeah,
trophy.
Exactly. The Johnson's Paint Trophy, for anyone who's not aware of what the what is it, leasing.com?
Leasing.com.
I'm going to look that right up when we finish recording later on.
Yeah.
For all your leasing needs.
Sorry. All of your leasing needs. So we'll move on to the game, move on to Saturday, and it was destination Peterborough for you and I and about 4,012 other town fans, as we took on a side who are yet to taste victory this season. And at about 2 p.m, much to the delight of Dave Diamond, we found out that Lambert had decided to stick with the 4-4-2 formation that he played in the two previous league games, with Gwyn Edwards coming in for the injured Luke Garbett. What were your thoughts on that? Were you expecting Jackson to keep his place, or were you?
I wasn't actually. No, I've been expecting a 4-2-3-1 since Burton. And it hasn't materialised yet, so I was actually quite pleased. I guess the nervousness was about Edwards' fitness, having similarly just returned from injury, and I think he got about 60 minutes of Luton, so that was quite bold. But the 4-4-2 seems to work for us at the moment. The personnel seem to get it, and I quite like the idea of Rowe and Edwards maybe swapping flanks, which I don't think actually happened, but could have. And also, there'll be people on the pod saying, we were told that Edwards could play left by Peterborough fans. So finally, after a season's worth of time at Ipswich, Edwards finally finds himself on the left-hand side. So positive news that.
So it's sort of he giveth with one hand to Benjamin Bloom by playing the inverted wingers, but he taketh away by still playing two up front.
Yeah, and the inverted wingers, as I say, we never saw anyway. So I think there might be one situation where everyone kind of got out of position. More of that later. But otherwise, I think they generally stayed quite fixed to where they were. Yeah.
So it was. I'll go through the lineup. We had Holly in goal, Donacien, Chambers, Wolfenden, and Kenlock at the back. So obviously Chambers the only one keeping his place from the Luton debacle. Downs and Skews in the middle, with Edwards and Rowe on opposite wings, cutting in, and we had Jackson and Norwood up top. So I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked my mate Sean that I went to the game with yesterday. Do you think that Alan Judge would have been disappointed to be on the bench, or slightly relieved that he wasn't playing on the left of a four?
The second one. I think if it had been a 4-4-2, I think if I'm Judge... Well, I guess if I'm Alan Judge, I'm thinking I want to play, but I'm not going to play left midfield. And so he does that at the detriment of the team. Maybe that's a harsh thing for me to say, but we have had plenty of questions or stuff about that over the last few weeks. So I think, I think he would have done whatever he wanted to do in that position. So I'm kind of glad that Lambert took that decision away from him.
Sure. And the Peterborough lineup, not many names that I know of particularly, but that's probably the case for most of League One at the moment. But they had Pym in goal, Mason at right back, Kent and Beavers the centre back pairing, Blake Tracy made I think it was his debut at left back. He looked pretty assured. And they started with a diamond with Reed at the base of it and Maddison at the tip, with Boyd and Knight either side, and then Asa, and Luca Toni up front.
Luca Toni?
Yeah, Luca Toni. I think that's his first name.
That's almost the famous Italian striker, but that's fine, yeah. Ivan.
Oh, all right.
Was that a joke? Have I just walked all over your joke?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh,
yeah,
Mikey, I'm so sorry.
Right.
I can't the Skype quality. I can't see the glint in your eye enough to know whether you're joking. Right. I was thinking, come on, he can't have made that mistake. And look at it, I just walked all over it.
And speaking of mistakes, what happened in the 4th minute, Rich?
Well, the 4th minute, I'm assuming we're talking about the mistake by Christy Pym, the aforementioned Christy Pym. It's a diagonal from Kenlock, actually. He's got quite far forward. And it's Beavers, Pym and Norwood who all congregate together. I think Norwood is kind of trying to unsettle things. I don't think he gets too involved with either of the Peterborough players, but the keeper comes out, misses it, and it drops to Norwood, who slams it into the left-hand corner, and 4,000 Town fans go absolutely crazy. Great start, and we kicked off and with intent, I think, and looked good for it. But obviously, when the opposition team gives you a favour like that, then you take it with both hands. Yeah,
well, my initial reaction was that Norwood had fouled the goalkeeper, but then when I watched it back, I was corrected on the Blue Monday WhatsApp group, and then when I watched it back, I saw that he did make a movement towards the goalkeeper, and it was clever because I think he's tricked the defender into thinking that he's about to foul the goalkeeper, so they both hesitated.
Yeah,
the goalkeeper's dropped it, and I was impressed by the way he finished it as well, because I know Brenna Woolley described it as a tap-in, and it was, but how many times do we see our strikers
edge of the area, wasn't he? So it wasn't a tap-in, yeah.
And it was sort of like on the half volley as it came down. I mean, you'd expect him to score that, but our forwards last year, I think they'd have taken the extra touch.
Yeah.
And then being tackled. And yeah, so staying on this Norwood goal, obviously we were in the ground at the time, so we hadn't noticed what was going on the Ipswich Town Twitter feed, but they'd uploaded the Norwood goal gif that we hadn't seen yet. And it was him doing a stone cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Smashing the beers together. What did you make of that, Rich? Are you a wrestling fan? I know Ben is.
I'm not, but I know the reference. And Twitter bloody loved that. Not just Ipswich Twitter. That was.
Yeah.
I saw that on Amazon Sport, on Joe. And then Bristol City fans kind of chimed in because I think they'd obviously started this trend a few years ago.
They started it.
Bobby Reed did something similar, but he did it with 2 cans of Diet Coke, I think. I think Norwood's got cans of Stella. He's doing it properly.
Yeah. I was like, are they Stella or San Miguel? I was trying to work that out.
Maybe there's a combination.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pick a mix.
Yeah, sometimes cider.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was excellent, but the way that we built on our lead wasn't really, was it? And Posh wasted a couple of half chances before Ivan Luca Toni squandered a really good one, as he headed straight at Holly after a Danasi and had failed to stop a cross. The pattern emerging there. That was a really, really good chance from where I was stood. And then about 10 minutes later, Wolfenden gives away a free kick on the edge of the box. Now this was over by the side where I was. I think we were opposite sides of the motor point stand, and it was clever from the attacker going down. I think that was Tony as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
But honestly, Wolfenden had barely made contact with him, and the ref was about 10-15 yards away, and he was the wrong side of Wolfenden to see it. He's just seen the player gone down and just guessed.
But he did that all afternoon, though, didn't he, Mikey? And it took us far too long to figure out. Tony figured it out after maybe 5 minutes. As soon as you kind of feel contact, as soon as anyone brushes against you, just fall over. Referee was given free kicks.
Because he's just too far away, wasn't he? He was just too far away. And the Luton... it was Joe that gave the referee from the Luton game a bit of stick for being unfit. I don't think this referee was unfit. He
was unfit to referee, Mikey, but not in a physical sense. How about that? Swung that round. I have to say, in the build-up, not only was it not a foul, I also thought, I think Boyd heads it through to Tony. I think Tony was offside as well for his run-in, but
right.
It's after the event now. It doesn't matter, does it? But yeah, one of these ones where 2 events goes against you and then suddenly the ball's in the back of your net.
So, yeah, well, you've already said it there. I was about to say
spoilers.
What happened. Maddison, he's got a really, really good left foot, hasn't he? And he whipped in a fantastic cross, but there was a foul in there as well, wasn't there?
Do you think? I think Tony's just stronger than Danastian, isn't he?
No, but he was clever, and it's the sort of thing that we expect from Norwood, really.
Yeah.
But he's got his hands out in front of him, and he has actually pushed Danastian, which he can't do, but that referee isn't going to see it for all that pile of bodies. So it's one of those where technically it was a foul, but it was never going to be given as one.
If Danastian falls over, if he tumbles to the ground there, there's a chance. But I think Tony's just stronger.
Built to do.
I think he's just stronger. And you talked about Maddison. He had a few free kick attempts. He kind of, I don't want to open up these old Waghorn free kick wounds between Ben and Dave again, but he hit a real crap one down my side pretty early on, and then had another one. I think that again Tony had a free header and narrowly went wide. So Maddison was getting his range in, but he hit them low and with pace. And they're sometimes a bit of a bitch to deal with, and we certainly, with a little bit of fortune, I guess, for the referee not picking up on the push, they got away with one there, but it's a decent delivery.
Yeah, he's a player that I liked, and my mate who's a Peterborough fan said that he can be the best player on the pitch when he fancies it, but he's one of those where he quite often just wants to be centre of attention for the wrong reasons in games.
Yeah, you could tell.
Without being tattooist, he's got facial tattoos.
I think he went all around to his chin, didn't he?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So 1-1 at half time. Moving into the second half, it was Peterborough that started stronger this time, and Holly twice made decent saves early in the second half. Ipswich weren't really offering much. Cole Skews was excellent all game, wasn't he? And he had a shot from about 25 yards, but didn't really get everything behind it. But the keeper had to palm it to the side. But on the hour mark, Alan Judge is stripped and ready to come on. But just before he's about to enter the field, what happens?
Yeah, so I saw him actually stood there on the sideline, and this has happened to us more than once in the last few years, that the opposition then break forward and score. It's Maddison, I think, isn't it, who receives the ball, and it's a really lovely pass actually to Isa. Isa, I'm going to flip back and forth on this one just to make sure I get it right. I'm 50% right.
Yeah.
Chambers sticks out a boot. I think he has to get something on it, because otherwise Isa's in, and it is a tap in this time. What he does is instead knocks the ball up in the air, so it removes all the pace out of it. But no one is alert to the dropping ball. Kenlock is watching one side. I don't know where Wolfenden is.
I think Wolfenden had maybe been caught out of position a little bit.
Yeah, we all looked a little bit high up the pitch, didn't we, at that point?
Yeah.
And he's a nice slams it in, doesn't he?
Yeah, decent finish from him. That was his first goal for Peterborough. And so then Judge is coming on, and I think I was half expecting it to just be a straight change, but really we weren't playing through the thirds at all, were we? And I'm not expecting us to do that all the time, but we talked, you and Joe talked the other night about a lack of pattern of play. We actually did have a pattern of play in this game, and that was long diagonal balls. Norwood trying to cause problems, if not win the ball, and Jackson playing in behind. But being 2-1 behind after where we were, that was pretty disappointing. But I suppose we did react fairly well, and we did sort of throw ourselves forward. Judge was being his usual self, just trying to get on the ball at every opportunity, and he hit a wild shot from about 30 yards that sailed over the top. And I think Ipswich fans, I noticed that they were starting to get a little bit wound up by Judge, and I think this may be a bit of a hangover from the QPR transfer saga.
Maybe so. Yeah, there was definite jeers. There was two things that I remember. One is that shot. The other was Judge in all kinds of space, just threading a pass through that went straight back to the keeper. Danastian got a few jeers as well, because he just wouldn't get up the pitch. But in terms of those long diagonals, I mean, it was a windy day yesterday, and I don't know whether that was part of our tactic just to play to that, but it was really tedious, and it doesn't work to Norwood's strengths. I know we think of him as kind of one of those players, the ball kind of comes to him and he tries to make things happen, but certainly yesterday, and at Burton as well, he's not great in the air. He's good in the air, don't get me wrong, but he's up against players like Buxton at Burton, and it was Beavers yesterday who is 6'5", I think 6'4", and they're just kind of leading over the top of him. They're fouling him as well because he gives a little bit and pushes and shoves. Referees don't give him any protection, so it wasn't working. It was actually working for Jackson. Are we gonna we're going to talk about the penalty, Mikey, where
Yeah,
actually the
sorry,
ball over the top worked for us, didn't it?
So yeah, that was a ball over the top from Skews. I think he's just sort of lifted it over the defender quite nicely, and Caden Jackson ran onto it brilliantly, took it in his stride, and I was thinking from that position he's not going to score, but he did really well to make sure that he was tripped by the centre back and went over for the penalty. Yeah, I was impressed by Jackson now because I think he hedged his bets a little bit. He knew that he was on his left side. Probably wasn't going to trouble the goalkeeper from there. He was probably going to trouble the away fans if anything. But he got us the penalty, and I don't know about you, but I saw Norwood step up, and I just thought, yeah, 2-2. Here we go.
I don't know. His first two steps worried me because I think he was doing a Pogba, and then he thought better of it. And at that point, I think there's too many things in his mind. He picks a corner, but it's low. It's not particularly fast, and I think the keeper knows exactly which way he's going. And in the end, it's a pretty straightforward save, isn't it? But that would have been a really good thing to get us back on kind of level terms at that point, because as you say, I don't think we were in it. It felt like Burton to me. It felt like the second half at Sunderland where we just weren't imposing ourselves on the game. We had chances, we had sights, we had some of the ball, but Peterborough were just able to cut through us so much more with more intensity and much more purpose than we were. People were getting frustrated. So that goal would have kind of maybe turned things a little bit. As it was, it didn't go in, and we kind of toiled for another sort of half an hour or so. And more of that in a bit, I guess. Yeah.
So Idris Ilmazuni comes on for Rowe. I wasn't particularly impressed by Rowe, but then again, I've answered my own question there, really, haven't I? Because we were playing so many long balls, the game was just sort of bypassing him, wasn't it? And it was mostly going down our left side as well, and he was obviously out on the right without Danassian up with him. But I was impressed by Ilmazuni when he came on, because rather than just because Kenlock had a few crosses that just
our fullbacks can't cross, can they, Mikey? Let's be honest.
Just aimless crossing. And Ilmazuni came on, and there was he had a couple of chances to cross, but instead he took the extra touch and drew a player in. And what Kenlock is quite good at is in the final third, like he's got quite a good fake, like a nice shape, as Dave would say. He moves the ball quite well in the final third, but when it comes to the crossing, that's where it sort of falls apart. But yeah, Ipswich didn't really create many chances, but in the 93rd minute we win a corner, and what happens from there, Rich?
Well, it's right in front of me, and it's young Ilmazuni who gets himself an assist. As you said, our crossing had been pretty lousy all game. Our set pieces too, our dead balls have been pretty crap as well. And I think this is the first corner that he takes. Similar to Maddison, it's quite low, it's played with pace, it's an outswinger, and through a crowd of bodies, Captain Fantastic Luke Chambers has his moment of redemption in front of the 4,000 fans, heads it in at the near post. There's a combination of the keeper and I think there's a guy on the line who can't keep it out, and everyone goes crazy. And I'm not going to pretend we deserved it, but you take it, don't you? And
you do.
Great for Idris Ilmazuni. Hopefully the first of many assists for him. And also great for Chambers, who, let's be honest, cares so much passionately about the club, tries his hardest, has had a couple of errors. Yes, we know about Sunderland and people trying to give him blame for the second goal for Peterborough yesterday, which I'm not 100% on board with, but great for him to kind of have his moment as well in front of the away support.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it? And he timed his run and timed his. Well, he didn't really have to jump that high, but he timed it brilliantly. Yeah. And it was one of those corners actually that can hit the first man because it was low and powerful, wasn't it? But Chambers it did hit the first man, but Chambers made sure it was him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a good moment. Absolute limbs, as the kids say, in the away end. Did it get a little bit much though? Was there a bit of over celebrating, do you think?
I think there was, there's a lot of reports on Twitter of some over exuberance, and I think there was a little barrier area that kind of gave way or something, and I think there was a few people that fell, and so that's obviously not a great thing there. And I don't know if we're going to talk about this kind of post-match in terms of walking out of the stadium as well. I was right on the side where the Peterborough fans were, and there's no barrier, there's nothing. The stewards run over to this kind of melee in the middle, and Peterborough fans are storming out because it's basically the last kick of the game, and come over and start gesturing and getting involved with the Ipswich fans. So it was a little bit crazy. Guy in front of me, a Joe Garner lookalike. It was crazy. He looked just like him, a young Joe Garner. It's kind of it stood there, and a big kind of massive bald Peterborough fan is walking out of the stadium. No one's anywhere near us, and he kind of looks around as if, oh, there's no one stopping me. If I do this, I could go up and cause some trouble. Walks straight up to this kid, pushes him over into the stand, into his seat, and just walks off. It was really nasty at the end, actually. That kind of corner, a real design flaw in Peterborough's stadium. You've got this brand new stadium, the Motor Point stand, as you say.
But yeah, and that area of the stand is, I'm not sure that's ever been for away fans.
Yeah, I was asking the copper at the end of the game, and he was sort of saying, "Well, we're not used to this number of supporters." Well,
yeah,
go figure, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a little bit like when the West Ham fans were in the South Stand in the playoff games. It's sort of unprecedented, really. But yeah, they maybe should have had a few more police in that corner to make sure it didn't happen. But it's weird, that stand over the left side, it doesn't even have any advertising hoardings at the bottom, does it? So the fans could literally just stroll out onto the pitch if they wanted to.
So that was what was happening. They were basically walking out, and a lot of them were kind of walking up and gesturing, as I say. And this one guy kind of gave it a go because, as I said, everyone had moved in, I guess quite rightly, to deal with all the people in the middle. But it just got a little bit nasty, and it was a real shame because I'm assuming the majority of the people were able to enjoy that kind of moment. But it did get a little bit nasty, as I say. And Peterborough United stewards were great, actually. There was quite a few, drunken idiots, as you usually find, people enjoying themselves a little bit too much. They dealt with that for the 94 minutes that preceded it. And that one moment, just a real oversight. And that kid could have got hurt, Fortunately, the guy kind of didn't push his luck. But, yeah, it just kind of soured, really, the end of the game for me, personally, because I'm stood there watching it. Totally avoidable. But the guy was all right. And Ipswich have a point out of nothing.
I probably shouldn't make this joke, but did he look like Joe Garner before he fell on his ass?
He did. Joe Garner's a good-looking guy. What are you saying, Mikey?
So 2-2 was how it finished then. I think most of us, as we've already mentioned, were satisfied with the result and satisfied with 5 points from 3 games, but we weren't particularly good. So I guess it's now time to go on to the Twitter questions, and thanks to everyone for all of the interactions, including James Norwood, who got involved, which was nice. I think Ben said that that's the first time that a player has sort of got involved in our Twitter questions. He didn't ask a question, but he did have an answer for David Strang's question, which was, do you think James Norwood's Twitter banter is for real, or is he trying a bit too hard to become a cult hero? So what are your thoughts on that, Rich?
I quite like James Norwood's answer. Have you got that to hand as well, Mikey?
I don't have it to hand, but it was on the lines of, I played in non-league football for 9 years. I like to have a laugh. It's more fun if everyone joins in. That was pretty much the gist of it, wasn't it?
Quite right. And and so I'm gonna back Norwood on this one because I don't know if you follow his stuff on Twitter. I think there was a guy who posted a photo at the end of the match saying, I waited around for a photo with Norwood. Gave him the camera, I think, to take a photo with me and my mates, and he just took a photo of himself, which I thought was brilliant as well. So I think James Norwood, I'm enjoying the banter. I enjoyed that Stone Cold Steve Austin gif. I'm hoping there'll be a few more of those as well, by the way. But yeah, quite rightly, the guy's enjoying himself. He's got his first goal now, which I think is a really good thing for him as well. We need more people like this. It's been a little bit boring and drab watching Ipswich Town. The big characters that we've had around the club over the last few years, no disrespect to them, are Chambers, Scouse, and Bart, and these are hard-working, honest professionals. But they're not. That doesn't necessarily always excite you, does it? So we need some big personalities.
I think Cole Scouse is apparently
he's quite dry.
The funniest guy at the club, but yeah, he's dry. He's not going to entertain the young fans on social media at any point. I'm with you, and I think that he is completely genuine with it as well.
And he's self-deprecating as well, which is great. I think the EFL tweeted something about when he got his first goal, kind of James Norwood's up and running, doing the usual stuff, and they said, and he said something about the penalty, I think. So, I think we did. I like Norwood. I'm glad that he's a bit different from what we've got as well, and long may the bants continue. He's the Ipswich Town Archbishop of Banterbury. He's a Bantosaurus Rex, Mikey.
Okay.
I've got no more of those.
Have you? I feel like we're using the term banter a little bit much.
Hashtag bants. Epic.
But yeah, if you're watching, James, you're more than welcome to join us on a flagship. Maybe after your first hat trick. Maybe you can go on the history pod in 10 years.
We'll bring the beers.
Who knows? So anyway, next up is Joshua Berry, whose question is, what happens when we go a goal up? Do we take our foot off the pedal? Perhaps it's a confidence hangover from last year, or it needs to be more clinical in something else.
It's yeah, and this happened at Burton, happened at Sunderland as well. It's a really great point, Joshua. It's I don't know what it is, and it's frustrating because we need more than one goal, don't we? We've kind of proven it so far this season. Burton was fortunate off the line last minute. Aikens misses a sitter. We nearly have a howler as well. We need to go for the second, maybe even the third goal to make us comfortable, and we just don't. And what we do instead is we take our foot off the gas. And Peterborough, you could see it soon after the goal. There's chances in. There's a moment for Holly. There's a missed chance from Tony, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether we've been trained to do it. I don't know whether we've kind of been told our best chance of attack is through counter, so sit back, invite them on, and then we'll break, because it did work at Burton, and maybe that is the tactic. I just don't trust it, and at the moment, given we haven't really got a consistent way of playing to score goals, I think we probably just need to keep that intensity level up attacking, because it was working to get the goals. The early goal yesterday, I just don't know why we take our foot off the gas at 1-0. I honestly don't.
Yeah, I wonder whether the extra man in midfield would mean that once we've got that goal, we can start to dominate possession a little bit more, while the other team sort of let them run around after it for a while.
That's a great shout. We don't hold on to the ball, do we, Mikey? That was key yesterday.
I guess that's kind of been we need continuity. So Lambert's gone with a 4-4-2 at Burton. It's probably a good thing that he's trying to get the continuity. But I think after that Peterborough performance, that was the worst league performance of the season out of the three. Would you say? Definitely. And as we said, there were scattered boos for bits and pieces of match action. I think if that had ended 2-1, I think you've got 4,000 town fans. A lot of you have had a good day out pre-match. There was a lot of them in charters. Hello to anyone who was in charters, and I spoke to a few people, Steve and Tig and Daryl, our mate Daryl, who's travelling back home. Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So it was good to see them, but that could have turned nasty, and I had me and Ty had a conversation about it. It would have been good to win yesterday, but we both were predicting draws, and I kind of said, well, maybe we'll get a last minute winner, and that will make it feel like a better thing than a disappointing draw. But it could have been so easily very different, and 4,000 town fans, players coming across, that might have been a little bit like Accrington was last season. There was a few nasty moments, so we kind of, I said, got out of jail on Twitter. I think we honestly did, and people will now be expecting on Tuesday, a lesser opposition, with no disrespect to Wimbledon, for us to dominate the game, to score more than one, and to take the game to the opposition. So we'll see how that goes. And
I think it's not so much the rescuing of a point. I'm stating the obvious here, really, aren't I? But it's about the momentum, isn't it? And how losing at Peterborough would have killed any momentum we've had at the start of the season. The mood would have completely changed amongst the fan base, because it would have been coupled with the Luton defeat, and I think everyone would have been so doom and gloom. But as it was, even though we were all maybe overreacting to the goal, well, no, we weren't overreacting to the goal, but the players were being cheered off when they're seconds away from being booed off by certain people, or at least just not really applauded. So I think it was a huge goal for that.
The momentum point is a really important one, Mikey, because as we all acknowledge that this was going to be a tough run of fixtures. 3 games against teams that were predicted to be there or thereabouts at the top end of the table at the end of the season. And so maybe against lesser opposition, we will be able to control the game a lot more, and we will go for the second one rather than sitting back. I guess a lot of us, and I'd include myself in this, are expecting more from this team, because this has been Lambert's. I know he's still a kind of mixture of Hurst and McCarthy and Lambert players. It's not entirely a Lambert team, and maybe that's a factor here. But I was expecting more progression from last season, and we were in the Championship last season. We played 3 teams that were League One last season and didn't look a huge cut above them, and I think that's probably a big factor in a lot of people's concern after yesterday as well. But season's early, we haven't lost yet. We've not lost to 3 teams that might be a good bet for promotion, so I guess I need to temper my moaning, but it would be good to see a little bit more positivity on the pitch from us.
Yeah, I mean, you touched upon it there with the different managers. That was Mullet's question: is Lambert currently juggling a squad with the remnants of mixed side / youth players, Hurst's League One stars and his own signings, Lambert's own signings? Is this the real reason we lack balance and identity? Is it the hangover in the sense of too much change too quickly for the club that doesn't usually sack managers?
I think that's a great shout. I agree with a lot of that, and a lot of the frustration yesterday was the players who, I'm trying to think, maybe the Hurst players. So Donastian yesterday, I think, was frustrated quite a few people as a right back. The licence to get up the pitch is a lot more, and he didn't really take that. But it was a collective thing yesterday, and that was what frustrated me, I guess, is as a team there's no structure, there's no cohesion. You'd expect individual players to maybe be a little bit more defensive if they were under Mick perhaps, or a little bit more pragmatic. I don't know what Hurst was up to, so let's ignore him, but Jackson was doing basically what he's always done, which is be quick. I think it's there's a hodgepodge there, and I don't think that helps us. But similarly, what we're doing in training, Mikey, we've had whole pre-season, we've mixed it around. Lambert played 4-2-3-1, played a midfield diamond, never played 4-4-2 last season, and suddenly we're playing 4-4-2. So you said the point about consistency. Where is it? Where are you? Let's be having you. But I think I think Mullet's right. I think it's a fair point.
I think they seem fit though, so maybe they're just working on the fitness.
If they're not injured,
If they're not injured, that's a good point. Change of pace now. Tim Pashley wants us to use up to 3 words to describe our thoughts on the season's outcome. He's cautiously optimistic. I'll say I'm not sold yet. That's my 3 words.
Hopefully playoffs.
Okay.
And let me clarify, Tim, as well. Ale is a drink for all year round, if there was any doubt of my cryptic answer, which I don't think was particularly cryptic.
That was
your question, wasn't
it? My question. Yeah. I just think ale. I had an ale yesterday, but when it's a really hot day, I'm not going for an Adnams bitter on a hot day. I'll always go for a lager or something else.
Cider. Wow, more for you, Mikey.
Wow.
That was me harnessing. That was me channeling my inner Tim Pashley there. I'm pretty certain the question was loaded anyway, his view of the answer was loaded anyway.
Great stuff. So Cornish Mariner, good ales down in Cornwall. What do you think? Why do you think there's been so little forward play? I'll start again. Why was there so little forward play on the deck, especially given that Norwood is hardly a giant? I mean, you touched upon that when we were reviewing the game, but it's a good question, isn't it? And do you think it was partly because of the conditions, or my opinion would be it was sort of the only thing that was working? The channels weren't really working for us.
I think that's you've hit on it there, Mikey. I think we resorted to it, and it got us the penalty, didn't it? And it did work. But I totally agree with the point on Norwood. The punted balls to the edge of the box for him to try and do something with on the chest or head. Waste of space. It works more for Jackson over the top, so that was fine. But there was moments where we kind of did little passing triangles and all that kind of stuff, and did get down. Guion Edwards, I think, had a chance in the first half when he kind of cut in and from the left hand side,
deflected shot.
And sometimes we do that, but more often than not, particularly when we're chasing the game, because it happened against Sunderland as well. We just resort to it. I don't like it. I'm not going to pretend that I like it, but I guess if we'd scored 2 goals and won that game yesterday after going behind, pumping it forward, and Holly will get an assist at some point, I'm convinced about that, I'm going to keep saying it, then we wouldn't be complaining about it, but it just seems to me we could do better.
Luke Moles asked for a team with no real set pattern of play yet, I feel that 5 points from 3 of our tougher games is a positive. There's quite a lot of questions like that, so apologies if I'm not reading yours out. But yeah, 5 points from 3 games. Looking at the fixtures, we'd have taken that at the start of the season, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it's a great call from Luke. I'd agree with that, and probably I felt that walking out of the ground about an hour later, maybe on my really slow train back to Warwick via Birmingham. Is that in the context of the opposition we've talked about and being unbeaten? I think it's a decent outcome, 5 points. But as I say, if we lose to Wimbledon on Tuesday night, then suddenly everyone's going to be up in arms, aren't they? So but it's a fair shout.
Great stuff. And Real Taco Man asked pretty much the same thing, and he said, has it actually been a fairly decent start? And I think in terms of results, yes, and I suppose results is the most important thing this season.
Yeah.
Simple one from Seabass Speak. Is Judge overrated or a luxury player, and does he have Paul Lambert's full confidence?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Well, I think there's no need to underrate Alan Judge. Alan Judge is a good footballer. I think probably the biggest thing he needs to work on is being more of a team player, a bit less selfish, and more of considered more of the team. Because when he drifts around, there was a few moments in the second half yesterday where he chased down the keeper to try and win the ball back, which on the face of it is great if you're the striker. He's probably at that point the fulcrum central midfielder for our midfield, and he's now out of position because he has to dash back. So I think he just needs to play more for the team. I think probably he's come in thinking he's the Billy Big Bollocks because we all adored him, didn't we? We were when he came in January, and he was a big name. He's a big, high caliber player in that team that got relegated, and he's probably still operating with that mindset that it's about me and I'll drag this team forward. I think he just needs to kind of chill out a little bit and maybe play for the team a little bit. I think Lambert needs to
be more of a chilled out entertainer, doesn't he?
He does more of a friend than a chilled out entertainer, Mikey. What am I saying? Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll just go with it. Jaromir Salonen, the Flying Finn, he also asked would we have taken 5 points? Yes, we would. But then he also asked, what should the points expectation be for the next 3 games? So we've got Wimbledon, Bolton, and then Rochdale. I think away. Yeah.
9. It's got to be. It's got to be 9. Rochdale are probably the strongest of those teams. I saw a little bit of Wimbledon yesterday against Accrington. Only the goal highlights, but Bolton is a team that is in disarray, isn't it? Let's be honest. We shouldn't be afraid of going there. We won there last season as well. So the question I think someone said before about would you take 5 points? I'd have taken 6 points or 9 points maybe from the first 3 possibly if I was pushing my luck, but certainly for these next 3 games they are #winnable, Mikey. I'd be disappointed with less than
winnable.
7.
Yeah, I'll take 6.
All right,
but I want 7.
Who are we losing to?
Rochdale.
All right, yeah, that's pretty fair.
It's grim up north.
Wow, that'll ruin my birthday. That will if we do that.
Oh, is that coming up? Is that on the day?
Day before, yeah. So I'll be celebrating. Celebrating in Rochdale.
Lovely stuff. Matthew Noble, he says there has been reports of inappropriate behaviour from a minority of town fans over the last couple of games. What part do you think the locality of these games played, attracting people that just go to get on the beers? Games up north never seem to have these issues. Yeah, there's quite a good segue there. And what can fans do to call this out?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think what happened against Luton was right. I know there was a lot of debate about whether the chants were offensive or not. And I guess sometimes it's in the ear of the beholder rather than the mouth of the chanter, if that makes sense. And I think what happened was a lot of people called it to the club's attention, and the club did a press release, didn't they? Kind of denouncing it, which I think is exactly the right thing to do. It's a tough balance, isn't it? Because clearly you're in a group of town fans. A lot of people, who, as I said, have probably been on the beers. You mentioned it as well. And sometimes it's difficult to challenge. I think there's always the option of having a conversation with the steward who's nearby. I guess sometimes you find, particularly away, that they don't really care. I think at Portman Road that'd be different. But yeah, I think maybe it is the local games. Maybe people are a little bit more comfortable with knowing their surroundings to be able to get on it earlier. Whereas if you go up the north, I don't know if people do it on the coach or the train or the bus or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I think we need to call it out, particularly if it is offensive, and if it is, we talk a lot in the show about freedom of speech and that kind of stuff. There's no freedom of speech if it's hateful, or if it marginalises sections of our society, and it's a bigger problem that we know about as well. But I think it's a tricky one with football fans, isn't it? Because you don't want to get on the wrong end of an argument with a fellow supporter, because I've seen those kicking off in Portman Road before, and it's always bad. So I think we need to call it out. Let's be sensitive about it, I guess, but not good. And I think a lot of the people that were probably doing those sort of chants would argue, oh, it wasn't offensive, oh, they've heard much worse. These people that don't agree that it's offensive should maybe just ask themselves, is it funny? Well, and as I say, they're not funny, are they? It's crap. Yeah, maybe. And I guess, as I say, it's in the ear of the beholder. If you are not considering the person who's receiving that chant, what they're going to think about it, then of course you're not going to you're going to dismiss the kind of complaints about it. So I think that is what I would just suggest for people who might have thought it was funny to get involved in stuff. I don't know what happened yesterday. There was obviously some scuffly bits and pieces with the Peterborough fans afterwards, but I thought yesterday, generally, given the numbers of people, was actually pretty decent. So I think we need to call it out and do it in the right way. Don't make get yourself into issues with people, or get kind of caught in a difficult situation in the ground. Go and find a steward, or I think there's a text number or something like that, or just call it out to the club, send an email to the club. They're generally quite good about that stuff. Yeah, great stuff. Mrs. Nutt's question, just to wrap up the questions. That's the second time I said wrap up. Were you surprised when Holly went up at the end for the corner? No, I wasn't. I was expecting it, because he's 6'9" or whatever. Is it 6'9"? No, that doesn't sound right. Is he 6'9"? Yeah, I think something so. Like that. I pinged a message to Mrs. Nuts to answer this early. I was expecting it. He's done a Toto, hasn't he, old Holly? That's what it is. It's chaos tactics, isn't it? There's little chance that he's going to get his head on the ball, but what he does do is he draws away one of the markers from one of our centre backs who's more likely to get on it, because he is so big. Yeah, it just causes confusion, doesn't it? And it worked for us against Stoke last season. I'm waiting for him to be doing it for every single corner we get, Mikey, regardless of the time in the match. God, that would be good, wouldn't it? So let's have a look at the other League One results. And in the early kickoff, Sunderland beat Portsmouth 2-1. So Jack Ross clings onto his job for probably another couple of weeks at least, which might not be a bad thing for us in the long run. Wimbledon and Accrington played out a 1-1 draw. Was that Wimbledon's first point of the season? Oh, I'm looking at the league table, so I can actually answer that question. I don't know off the top of my head. It is Wimbledon's first point, yeah. Having lost the first two. Let's hope they don't get their first win this week. So Blackpool carried on their good start to the season, beating Oxford 2-1. Rotherham, maybe now they're a team that's good away from home rather than at home. They won at 1-0 at Burton. #Cov, good win at St Andrews against Bristol Rovers. Yeah, I went to them, making it a bit of a fortress. They are, yeah. It's still a disgrace. I'm going to call it out every time. I went through the Rico on my convoluted train journey to Peterborough, if you can believe it, via Leicester. Disgrace. But yeah, good for Coventry winning. Sold quite a few decent players there as well in the summer, so good to see them kind of bouncing back and making, as you say, making St Andrews a fortress. One of the best games of the weekend was at the Keepmoat Stadium as Doncaster. I think they scored quite late to beat Fleetwood Town. Lincoln City 4-0. It was Noggy in the last minute as well for Doncaster. And Coppinger. We need to call out Coppinger. Yeah, I think that was a lovely goal, wasn't it? He scored, is it now in 15 consecutive seasons for Doncaster? Yeah. Impressive. Yeah. We were looking at him probably 7-8 years ago, weren't we? Joel, I was looking at him with a double deal with Billy Sharp, I think, at the time. And the good rumour on TWTD was, I think Coppinger's wife or other half is a nurse, and someone claimed that they'd seen Mrs. Coppinger or something had got a job at Ipswich Hospital, which was obviously never. It's like the Alan Curbishley house in Woodbridge, never really happened.
Yeah. Actually, no. Alan Curbishley does live in he did live in Melton St Aldridge, which is a couple of miles outside Woodbridge.
Oh, there you go.
It's
wow.
true. It's true.
I'm speaking to the king of Woodbridge, aren't I? So, okay. Wow.
King of Woodbridge now.
King of Anglia.
So, yeah, Lincoln, as I mentioned, 4-0 against Southend. They look like a decent side.
Southend in trouble again.
What was that? Sorry.
Southend not doing well either.
No, struggling. Yeah. Shrewsbury 0, Rochdale 0. I bet that was a exciting game. Tranmere beat Bolton 5-0. They showed Cov how it's supposed to be done against Bolton.
Touché.
And Wycombe Wanderers, surprisingly, they were one of the relegation favourites. They picked up another win against Milton Keynes. I think they had a late winner as well. Absolute limbs at Adams Park. So we'll have a little look at the league table. I mean, you're not supposed to, are you, until at least probably 6-7 games in. But Lincoln are top with a goal difference of +8 now. Yeah, +8. Well, they haven't conceded yet.
Oh, Mikey.
Yeah.
Give it to them now. Give them the trophy.
Yeah. Name on the trophy. Yeah. Blackpool 3 wins from 3 as well. I think that's quite remarkable, really, considering the turmoil.
Oh, yeah, they've turned it around, haven't they? Good for them. Yeah,
good for them.
Grayson.
Wycombe still unbeaten. #Cov still unbeaten. Fleetwood.
Joey Barton's Fleetwood.
Joey Barton's Fleetwood. And Rotherham a 6th. We're down in 8th. Exactly the same as Sunderland.
Yeah.
Which, hopefully. Well,
I guess most people would have
Sunderland are going to be up there, but I think most would expect Ipswich and Sunderland to be in the top 6 next to each other, or maybe even the top 2. Who knows? So on Tuesday night, Rich, we have AFC Wimbledon at Portman Road. As we mentioned, they picked up their first point of the weekend. This is a game that we should be taking 3 points from, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there might be a little bit of rotation, perhaps. But maybe the 4-4-2 we do again. But yeah, I think
what would be your lineup for Tuesday night if everyone that played yesterday is fit?
So I as I said at the start, I don't think Vincent Young will start. He might be on the bench, perhaps.
He's got Moni Towbury, hasn't he?
He's got what?
A Moni Towbury.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Yep. I don't know. Well, that's gone straight in my head, Mikey, I'm afraid. Sorry, I haven't had my dinner. So I'd keep it the same, to be honest. I think Edwards is probably the better option out left than Judge, and we've not got Garbutt back, obviously. I'd stick with it. As I say, maybe we've bemoaned a lack of consistency and a lack of familiarity, maybe. So let's stick with it, but maybe he'll shuffle it all again and we'll have a 4-2-3-1 again. Just worth saying, by the way, I did a bit of an informal extrapolate.
Okay.
And I think that had us on 76 points over the 46 games, which would have been good enough to be 6th and sneak a playoff place last season. Though 1 to 5 were head and shoulders above everyone else.
Would you take that now if offered it?
No, Mikey, I would not say that at all. But I think a win takes us to 1.8 per game, which I think is a lot better. So I think there's a little bit of pressure, maybe not as much as there would have been if we'd lost, to win on Tuesday, and no reason why we shouldn't either. So there's my prediction of 4-4-2, and as much consistency with the selection as possible. Here I am for the midweek show later on and explaining how it's totally different, but never mind. What's your call?
I think it might be time to change the formation. I felt like we were playing a 4-3-3 at the end of the game on Saturday.
Perhaps,
I wouldn't mind seeing that with Judge coming in for Edwards. I don't think Edwards can play. I don't think he'll be able to play 3 games in 7 days. Maybe if he does stick with the 4-4-2, I think Ilmazuni might come in.
Yeah.
After his decent cameo. So you've already said that you're back for the midweek show. Do you know who you're with?
I think I'm with Dave. I think he is parachuting in because I think Joe's got some work commitments. Otherwise, there was a point where Joe was on a 5-game stretch, or sorry, five run stretch of the pod. So we've done a bit of rotation ourselves, and Joe's had a night off tonight, and Dave I think will come in on Wednesday. But if you see Joe, it's probably because we've recorded on Thursday. So yeah, looking forward to that. Where we'll obviously dissect Wimbledon and look ahead to Bolton.
It's going to be a hell of a show. Rich, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to say as you say goodbye?
Be nice to everybody.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Be nice to each other.
Be nice to each other. And just try not to be racist. But not that any of our listeners would be anyway. Be careful what you wish for.